in critiquing John McCain's ideas on foreign policy, I would like to compare them to what I believe are sounder, better ideas on foreign policy. This is especially relevant since John McCain is running as a Republican, and many Republicans have professed admiration for and devotion to the ideas of the American founders. So it's instructive to examine what the American founders thought was the best foreign policy. And I also happen to think that the founders were correct with regard to their opinion, because they advocated a non-interventionist foreign policy. In his farewell address in 1797, George Washington said, "It is our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliances with any portion of the foreign world." 4 years later, in his first inaugural address, Thomas Jefferson echoed that same sentiment and expanded it. He praised equal and exact justice to all men of whatever state or persuasion, religious or political, peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. This is a comprehensive vision of foreign policy, which is focused on international relations in terms of trade, in terms of cultural exchange, in terms of peaceful exchanges, not foreign occupations, not hegemony, not entangling alliances, not being the world's policeman, or trying to conduct the affairs of other nations. Nor was this an isolationist foreign policy. Rather, it was a non-interventionist foreign policy. An isolationist would have Americans keep within America's borders, would cut off trade with the rest of the world. A non-interventionist embraces trade. He embraces learning about other countries and cultures, traveling there, exchanging ideas with people from those countries and cultures, even engaging in peaceful diplomacy of a kind that doesn't require entangling alliances. The problem with entangling alliances is that they tie one's hands. The U.S. government, engaged in entangling alliances, will find itself in situations where its commitment to its allies will have to be placed above its fundamental commitment, which is to protect the rights of American citizens, who delegated certain very specific and limited powers to this government. So, this was the non-interventionist policy outlined by Washington and Jefferson. How did it work? This foreign policy was remarkably successful, as Andrew Jackson acknowledged in his second inaugural address in 1833. That's 32 years after Jefferson gave his first inaugural address, so this foreign policy had some time to work. Jackson said, "The foreign policy adopted by our government soon after the formation of our present Constitution, and very generally pursued by successive administration, has been crowned with almost complete success, and has elevated our character among the nations of the earth. To do justice to all, and submit to wrong from none, has been, during my administration, its governing maxim. And so happy have been its results, that we are not only at peace with the world, but have few causes of controversy, and those of minor importance remaining unadjusted." Can we, in contrast, say about American foreign policy today that it has been a complete success, and that we are at peace with all the world, and that we have few causes of controversy, and those that remain are of minor importance? No, we cannot. Whatever one's views are on foreign policy today, one certainly cannot make these kinds of glowing statements that Andrew Jackson made about the foreign policy pursued by the American founders and the several succeeding generations. Now, A non-interventionist foreign policy, of course, does not mean a pacifistic foreign policy either. It is a foreign policy that is devoted to defense. As Andrew Jackson said, it's a foreign policy that encourages doing justice to all and submitting to wrong from none. An excellent example of this foreign policy in action was the way in which Thomas Jefferson dealt with the Barbary pirates, who were attacking American merchant vessels and capturing crewmen and enslaving them. What did Thomas Jefferson do? Did he send in a full-fledged force to militarily occupy Tripoli, the haven of the Barbary pirates? No, he did not. Thomas Jefferson used only the means that were necessary to launch an attack on Tripoli, refuse to pay tribute to the Barbary pirates, and show them that attacking American merchant vessels was not a good idea. Thomas Jefferson sent a small contingent of Marines to Tripoli, which happened to be sufficient, by the way, and he also issued letters of marque and reprisal for private individuals to hunt down the Barbary pirates. And it worked. This limited response to a genuine threat helped defend American lives without entangling the U.S. in any kinds of alliances or permanent commitments. Now, 52 years after Andrew Jackson spoke, this non-interventionist foreign policy was still being practiced. President Grover Cleveland, giving his first inaugural address, said the following: "The genius of our institutions, the needs of our people in their home life, and the attention which is demanded for the settlement and development of the resources of our vast territory dictate the scrupulous avoidance of any departure from that foreign policy commended by history, the traditions, and the prosperity of our republic. It is the policy of independence, favored by our position, and defended by our known love of justice and by our power. It is the policy of peace, suitable to our interests. It is the policy of neutrality, rejecting any share in foreign broils and ambitions upon other continents and repelling their intrusion here. It is the policy of Monroe and of Washington and Jefferson. Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none." So Grover Cleveland explicitly restated Thomas Jefferson's proposal for what a foreign policy ought to be like. Once again, it is a defensive foreign policy, which will result in retaliation if the United States is attacked within its territory. However, this retaliation is also combined with a general posture of armed neutrality and a refusal to entangle and embroil oneself in the affairs of other countries. Furthermore, the American founders and men such as Jackson and Cleveland abhorred conscription, and so did Ronald Reagan, whom many Republicans and conservatives today revere. In 1979, Ronald Reagan wrote the following about conscription: "Conscription rests on the assumption that your kids belong to the state. If we buy that assumption, then it is for the state, not for parents, the community, the religious institutions, or teachers, to decide who shall have what values, and who shall do what work, when, where, and how in our society. That assumption isn't a new one. The Nazis thought it was a great idea." So what I said in my previous presentations about conscription being murder by lottery, about conscription being immoral, not just impractical, is a sentiment that is not all that radical. Ronald Reagan would have agreed with it. John McCain does not agree with it, and that is disturbing, because John McCain deviates from this non-interventionist foreign policy advocated by the founders and by presidents such as Jackson and Cleveland. So if one is going to support McCain, one should at least be honest and announce one's departure from the ideas of the founders. Say that the founders were wrong, and say that one disagrees with the founders. But one is being hypocritical if one praises the founders' ideas and those of McCain in the same breath.